Monday afternoon headlines here on RT International. These are the faces of 6 children, 5 sisters and a brother, who were killed in mid-August by an airstrike in Syria. Their father accuses the US military of bombing his home and trying to cover up their deaths. It happened near the small town of Atme, close to the Syrian-Turkish border. The following video reportedly shows the aftermath of the attack. The footage contains graphic images. The pictures show all that remains of the house, which the father claims was shelled by the coalition. Here's his son being pulled from the debris as people search for survivors in the rubble. Now, the US military issued a statement saying allegations of civilian casualties were unfounded. The target was an Islamic State staging area in the vicinity of Atme, and it was a successful strike by the coalition. But the father, who was not at home when his house was leveled, said ISIS isn't even present in the area.
أولادي راحوا أولادي أنا المدنيين كلياتنا ونازحين باركين عندي عائلة نازحة من أريحة قاعدين كلياتنا مدنيين لا معنا سلاح لا معنا شيء بيتي هذا منزلي هون أنت شايف شلون الوضع شلون لحاله الدمار شلون صار دولة ما عندنا تنظيم دولي من سنتين من 1/1/2014 راح تنظيم الدولة من عندنا وما عندنا تنظيم دولي طاوي.
9 people were killed in that bombing, including a family of 3 Syrian refugees from another city. 2 of the father's children survived the blast. His 5-year-old son was seriously injured but is now recovering. But his 2-year-old daughter suffered a head injury that has left her disabled.
بنتي عمرها 2 ونص ذات هي كانت في القصف تحت وضعها خرجتها من المشفى ولسه بدي اخذها على المشافي ما اصطلحت ما بتسمع لا بتشوف ما بتحس في شيء دوم جريها هيك كانوا ايديها هيك لفوق والله ما بعرف من الانفجار ايه انضربت على راسها في ضربه هون ما في امل منها.
Simon Hooper, an award-winning journalist, has investigated the incident and spoke with the father of the children.
US Central Command told us that they had carried out an investigation and they considered reports of civilian casualties to be not credible. Now, there does seem to be a lot of evidence to suggest that 9 people were indeed killed. There's no evidence of any fighters being killed in this incident. When we followed up with US Central Command to ask them what they had how they'd conducted this investigation, it seemed they hadn't actually spoken to anybody in Atma, which is quite an accessible part of Syria by the standards of Syria, and had basically been looking at photos and social media.
Let's get back to our top story here on RT International. The arrests of Turkish officers who intercepted trucks allegedly smuggling weapons to terror groups in Syria. For more on this, we can now speak to Ertuğrul Kürkçü, the president of the pro-Kurdish HDP party, joining us live here on RT International. Thank you so much for coming on the program today. The officers are facing some very serious charges here, charges of treason and terrorism. Are they legitimate?
I don't think so, because those officers had been conducting a mission ordered by their superiors and depending on a decision by a court and prosecutors. And the allegations, the charges were smuggling of arms into Syria to the jihadist groups. Actually, the Turkish president now, and who was the prime minister then, has yesterday admitted that those trucks were heading to Syria, to Turkmen groups in Syria.
But I'm sorry, but I thought the understanding was these were humanitarian aid trucks. You're saying that's not the case?
That's not the case, because the journalists who are now charged under the same charges have declassified the files which include photos of arms and ammunition, and they were not humanitarian aid. On the other hand, Tayyip Erdogan didn't say that these were humanitarian aid. He said that these were going to Turkmen people and to opposition groups to free Syrian army. Those groups are fighting against the Syrian government.
Sorry, just to jump in so I understand. So you're saying that Erdogan has admitted that these were weapon shipments to who?
To the Free Syrian Army, that is the opposition group which existed then, and to the Turkoman groups in Syria who are now also fighting against the Damascus regime. So Turkey, therefore, intervenes into a domestic conflict as a state which has nothing to do with this conflict as such. Therefore, the charges and the prosecution 2 years ago conducted by those generals were based on legitimate charges, but these charges...
But now we're seeing a lot of people question these so-called charges of treason here, with these reporters allegedly showing pictures now of weapon convoys crossing over the Turkish border, going into Syria to go to these opposition rebel fighters. I suppose some of them are the alleged moderate fighters. Ertuğrul Kürkçü, the president of the pro-Kurdish HDP party. Thanks for joining us today here on RT International. Thank you. And thank you for joining us here on the program as well. Up next, a close introspective documentary on the so-called Islamic State.